believe it or not, Donald Trump has decided to punish states that are choosing to boycott Israel in any way, shape, or form, apparently. And he's choosing to punish them by denying them FEMA funds. Now, first of all, I don't even think that this is legal. Just to be clear, I don't think it's legal to deny FEMA funds to a state when they need disaster relief. But that's what's happening now. And apparently, this is causing a split among MAGA as well. Let's get into this story. Trump sparks MAGA backlash over earlier warning to states about Israel. Oh, buddy. Oh, buddy. The Trump administration drew fury of some of the president's staunchest supporters when Reuters reported that Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA funds, would be denied to states and cities that boycott Israeli companies. Now, let's pause here for a second. Let's talk about who would be greatly impacted by this. Obviously, states that have more money would not be, impacted as much. However, states that are the poorer states would be impacted, which would mean this would greatly affect red states. If you're looking at states like California that has a lot of money, and by a lot of money, I don't mean the people who live there necessarily have a lot of money. I mean the state as a whole. Like a lot of the blue states like California, Massachusetts, New York, like they have more funds. But if you're looking at states like Mississippi, Louisiana, South Carolina, where I used to live, these are states that don't have a lot of funds. And if they do have a disaster issue, they do heavily rely on those FEMA funds. I mean, we can go back and look towards Hurricane Katrina as a big example about that. So I think this could be why it's causing that rift there within MAGA. FEMA, which is overseen by the Department of Homeland Security, said in grant documents uploaded on Friday that states must follow its terms and conditions, which include states certifying that they will not limit commercial relations specifically with Israeli companies or with companies doing business or with Israel or authorized by, licensed by, or organized under the laws of Israel to do business. So the Department of Homeland Security is saying something a little bit different. We'll get into the statement they made on Twitter. Now, why does it matter? The FEMA notices posted Friday related to at least $1.9 billion in federal grants that states depend on for search and rescue gear, emergency management salaries, backup power systems, and other essentials. They marked the Trump administration's latest move to leverage federal funding to advance its stance on Israel, but also sparked sharp scrutiny from many Trump supporters. The blowback highlights a broader fissure with the Republican Party between hawkish lawmakers who support sending more aid and weapons to Israel and isolationist MAGA influencers who oppose the U.S. becoming more involved in conflicts in the Middle East. So this is a problem. This would be a problem if this were to go through. It goes on to say here's some of the statements from Candace Owens denying Americans who won't support the genocide being conducted by your friends. Conservative Candace Owens wrote on X, Trump has fully betrayed America for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. And if you cannot see that now, you are completely blind. Here's one here from Owens as well. Best 100 Miriam Adelson ever spent. This cannot be real. This is from Milo, who has been accused of making racist and Islamophobic statements on X as well. So it's interesting that he said that of all people. The Hodge twins, they said, is this America first? Question mark. Here's another one here. There is no FEMA requirement to Israel in any current NOFO. No states have lost funding and no new conditions have been imposed. And that is from the DHS spokesperson. Now, it was Reuters that reported that information that Donald Trump was wanting to do this, right? So it didn't come out of anywhere. Obviously, this is something that either Trump's administration had talked about or a source close to Trump spilled to Reuters. Now, check this out. Here's another one from Marjorie Taylor Greene. It says that MTG of Georgia came out strongly against the bipartisan bill, saying in part that it's my job to defend America's rights to buy or boycott whomever they choose without the government harshly fining them or imprisoning them. Now, that is in response to the bipartisan IGO Anti-Boycott Act, saying it would criminalize boycotts and free speech against Israel. So what you see is happening here, these moves that Donald Trump is making with Israel is causing a rift within the MAGA base. Obviously, Democrats are, going to feel some type of way because it's Trump and it's not their party. Even some of those, I think, that may support Israel. It's crazy things that's happening right now. But the reality is nobody should be punished because they choose to boycott Israel. Right. So again, that's not America first. And that would greatly impact red states the most because of the funding. And I'll get into what we can do moving forward. DHS did issue this response. Again, there is no FEMA requirement tied to Israel in any current NOFO. No states have lost funding and no new conditions have been imposed. They go on to say FEMA grants remain governed by existing law and policy and not political litmus tests. DHS will enforce all anti-discrimination laws and policies, including as it relates to the BDS movement, which is expressly grounded in anti-Semitism. So here's Homeland Security. Everything is anti-Semitic, I tell you. Those who engage in racial discrimination should not receive a single dollar of federal funding. Right. So interesting, huh? Interesting. Now, Community Notes, Community Notes chimed in here and said misleading. DHS terms and condition only now remove the section stating boycott means refusing to deal, cutting commercial relations, or otherwise lifting commercial relations specifically with Israeli companies. So here was the Department of Homeland Security getting checked by Community Notes. Now, this is why this is really important. Benjamin Netanyahu is now on record stating that Israel wants all of Gaza, right? I mean, many of us knew that was the plan all along anyway, but now he's vocally saying this loud and proud. And that's important because Donald Trump has just responded to that. And I want you to pay attention to what Donald Trump says here in this video. And again, please use your common sense.
Support Israel reoccupying all of Gaza has been suggested by some Israeli officials?
Well, I don't know what the suggestion is. I know that we are there now trying to get people fed. As you know, $60 million was given by the United States fairly recently to supply food and a lot of food, frankly, for the people of Gaza that are obviously not doing too well with the food. And I know Israel's going to help us with that in terms of distribution and also money. We also have the Arab states are going to help us with that in terms of the money and possibly distribution. So that's what I'm focused on. As far as the rest of it, I really can't say. That's going to be pretty much up to Israel. Yeah, please.
Okay, so Donald Trump is lying here. He knows exactly what Benjamin Netanyahu wants. So he's like, well, I don't really know. That's up to Israel. No, they're all on board with this. Miriam Adelson doesn't give you that amount of money for nothing. They're all on board with it. They all knew what the plan was. But of course, Donald Trump, he's a showman, right? Like he's a con artist. He's going to sit up there and convince you otherwise. Well, I don't know. We're just focused on getting in aid. Okay. So let me show you something. This is what getting in aid looks like right now in Israel, right? Israeli settlers are blocking aid from reaching starving civilians in Gaza. As the Israeli army stands by, settlers decided to block trucks heading through the Allenby Bridge crossing, which are being sent to aid Gaza. Israeli citizens frequently protest to block aid. Look at this. Yeah, and we saw this before under the Biden administration as well, where they will block the aid, right? So it's not just a matter of we're trying to get, when you hear these public officials, because Biden said it too, when you hear them say we're trying to get aid in, if you have difficulty getting aid in, then you would hold Israel accountable. They're not trying to hold Israel accountable. It's that simple. Two, for the aid that does get in, IDF soldiers are killing Palestinians as they go to retrieve the aid. We've seen the videos. It's everywhere. So it's not just a matter of we're trying to get the aid in. Notice they never explain what the holdup is or what the problem is, because then they would have to defer to Israel. And in some instances where people have said, well, Hamas is stealing all the aid, that has been debunked multiple times by several corporate media outlets, and that Israel provided no proof that Hamas was stealing the food. And this is also why, if you see the news about the hostages that are starving, one of the things that Hamas said is that they eat what we eat. So when you don't allow aid to come in, they're not eating either. What that tells you is that Israel is willing to starve its own people in order to accomplish a greater goal of taking all of Gaza and expanding Israel. All of them agreed to this. This is not just by the way, with the Kamala Harris thing as well, I told you the foreign policy was already written. The foreign policy was already written. So, you know, the people who were taking AIPAC money, Kufi money, J Street money, who said, I will always be pro-Israel, who refused to stop giving Israel weapons, they would have gone along with the same policy. This is what Gaza looks like now. Brace yourselves.
Building by building, Gaza is being erased. Cities like broken skeletons laid waste by war. Graveyards of life and lives. The streets, homes and coffee houses of old now cast to the ground. The soul of this place, along with the souls who lived here, brought to ruin in the rubble and dust. Israel bans foreign journalists from entering Gaza. 15,000 feet above is the closest we get to seeing for ourselves the consequences of the war it is waging here.
This is what Israel doesn't want you to see. This is what is left of Gaza today. You see, this is why they didn't want to allow Western journalists to come into Gaza, because then they would have to show you this. Now, this is ITV News, but this is the aerial view so you can see what is actually left of Gaza.
When we joined an airdrop last week, Israel also tried to restrict images from above being filmed or shown.
Did you hear what she said? She said Israel tried to restrict images being filmed from above because they don't want you to see it. That was all done by Israel. That's not Hamas.
Aid being dropped from this flight is to those who are trying to survive in this hell. This was Gaza before the bombs started falling, a place of life where normal lives were lived. There is no sign of that normality now.
You see the difference? Let's fast forward a little bit here, because I want you to see this.
Of its residents. This was a primary and secondary school. We can't say what became of the pupils. Many of the other ruins were homes. We can't say whether those that lived here survived or are among the 60,000 now dead. Under international law, it is a war crime to target schools, hospitals, and other civilian sites. This landscape of destruction looks otherworldly, yet it's not. It is this world, and what is happening may yet come to define one of its darkest eras, one that casts a stain on humanity, which will endure for generations.
There is no way that the Palestinian people can live in that. There's nothing there. And that was the plan. Destroy all of it. Now, people, start putting some things together and let's start connecting the dots here. It was reported by the New York Times that Israel discovered Hamas's plans a year and a half prior to October 7th, but didn't believe it, apparently didn't think it would be something that they could accomplish. But if they feel that Israel's security is so important, wouldn't they have put measures in place to prevent that from happening? It almost seems as though they wanted it to happen so they can do what they're doing now. We gotta think on their level and the way that they would think. You gotta think the way that a genocidal maniac would think. And then they could just say, well, this is all Hamas's fault. There's nothing there for the people. And now you have Donald Trump trying to punish states who have decided to boycott Israel. I'm going to punish you with FEMA funds if you boycott Israel. None of this is America first. For those who wanted policy that was going to be America first, none of this is America first. Now, here's the big question. What do we want? Because it's simple to answer this problem and just say, well, we don't want him to take those FEMA funds. And that's pretty much how, like, I don't know, corporate media is focusing on it. We don't want him to take those FEMA funds. We don't want to be punished that way. But they're not looking at the bigger picture. It's not just about the FEMA funds. It's about this undying support for Israel to the point where you are willing to punish Americans so that they can consider their genocidal project. So it's not just that we don't want the FEMA funds to be withheld. It is also that we want to end to a genocide. We want to end to the occupation. And honestly, for me, we want to end to this sick, psychotic relationship with Israel. Because that's what's controlling American policy. We have money to give to Israel, but we don't have money to give to people here. All that money is going out the door to Israel. Your state gives money to Israel every year. Did you know that? Boston gives 10 million to Israel every year. But we got homeless people on the street. We got people who can't afford to pay their rent. They continue to build affordable housing, but you need to have an income requirement of at least $100,000 a year. But they're putting money towards Israel so they continue to build and develop this place that is for a specific group of people, the supremacy that they support. But they tell you they don't have money for you. So when I say, what do we want? It's not just about the FEMA funds. It is about cutting the ties that the U.S. has with Israel altogether. And that is the bigger picture, because the U.S. government is the one that is keeping Israel afloat. It is mainly our weapons. It's mainly our money. Yes, like the European countries, they donate as well too, but not as much as we do. So withholding our weapons could put an end to this like that. The politicians don't want to put an end to it. And at some point, I believe that Gaza will be rebuilt, but it won't be rebuilt for the Palestinian people. It will be rebuilt for Israelis and settlers who moved there and claimed the land. In regards to the FEMA funds and looking at the bigger picture, this is why I say we need to advocate for public banking. You are seeing things happen where Trump's administration is saying we're going to withhold federal funds if you do this, or withhold funding if you do that, or if you don't do this. And that brings up this issue again of public banks. Because if these states had public banks, they wouldn't have to rely on this funding from the federal government. Perfect example is North Dakota, which doesn't get a lot of press and attention. But North Dakota has a public bank. It's called the Bank of North Dakota. During the 2008 housing crisis, North Dakota didn't suffer the way that other states did because they had a public bank to bail them out. And that is ultimately something we need to move towards. And this is why I say we need to push and move towards public banking. And I think a lot of the states are going to have a wake-up call here. Because anyone can come in, it doesn't have to be Donald Trump. Anyone can come into the White House and say, yeah, we're just going to cut funding for this and this and this and that. You don't know what's going to happen in the future. So I think that's the way that we can get around that. But ultimately, Donald Trump knows exactly what is going on. He knows what Israel wants to do. He co-signed it. That's why he got that money from Miriam Adelson. This is what she wants as well. They don't give you that kind of money to sit back and just say, oh, yeah, you guys need to stop doing what you're doing. They give you that kind of money to go along with the plan. So people have to stand up. And it sounds like even Marjorie Taylor Greene is calling this out. Americans should not be punished. States should not be punished because they choose to boycott this insane genocidal country. Hey guys, this was a Sabby clip. If you like what you saw, hit that like button and subscribe.